Open that coffin now. The captain shouted as rain hammered the cemetery. Every officer froze. The dog wouldn't stop barking, frantic, desperate, almost screaming. Rex, the K9 partner of the fallen officer Daniel Brooks, clawed at the coffin, mud flying beneath his paws. Get him away. Someone yelled, but the captain shook his head. No, he's trying to tell us something. The priest dropped his Bible. The widow gasped. Silence hung heavy as the coffin lid slowly creaked open. And then, a sound out of faint breath. A heartbeat. The man they were about to bury wasn't dead. Rex sat back, whining softly. His loyalty had just rewritten life and death itself. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The rain fell softly over the police cemetery, turning the ground into a blanket of gray. Rows of officers stood in silence, their uniforms darkened by the drizzle. In the front row, a folded flag rested atop a coffin draped in honor, the final resting place of Officer Daniel Brooks, a man who had served with courage, loyalty, and heart. Beside the coffin sat Rex, his loyal German shepherd partner. His fur was soaked, but his eyes, wide, alert, and filled with confusion, refused to leave the wooden box before him. Every time the bugle played, Rex whined, pressing his paws against the coffin as if begging his master to wake up. Easy, boy, whispered Captain Harris, gently tugging on the leash. But Rex wouldn't move. Instead, he growled, low, guttural, and defiant. Officers exchanged uneasy looks. They'd seen grief from dogs before, but not like this. The priest bowed his head for the final prayer. Rex barked sharply, once, twice, then began scratching furiously at the coffin. The silence broke. People gasped. Something about that bark didn't sound like mourning. It sounded like a warning. Long before the rain in the coffin, there were endless days of sunlight and training fields. Officer Daniel Brooks and Rex had been more than just a K9 unit. They were family. From the first day Rex joined the force, Daniel saw something in him that others didn't. Intelligence, discipline, and a kind of loyalty that couldn't be taught. Daniel spent hours training him, from chasing suspects through alleys to detecting explosives with precision. But when the uniform came off, Rex wasn't a tool. He was Daniel's best friend. They'd eat together, drive together, and even sit quietly by the lakeside after long shifts, watching the sunset. Once, during a mission gone wrong, Rex had taken a bullet meant for Daniel. From that day forward, Daniel always said, "If anything ever happens to me, trust Rex. He'll know what's right." Those words would later echo like prophecy, because now, as the rain poured over his coffin, the same dog who once took a bullet for his master stood trembling, not out of sorrow, but out of instinct. Something was wrong. Rex could feel it, and Daniel's final words were about to prove true. The ceremony had ended, but Rex still wouldn't move. The other officers had already stepped back, their salutes finished. Yet he remained, staring, growling softly. His paws pressed against the coffin. "Rex, that's enough," whispered Captain Harris, kneeling beside him. But the dog's eyes stayed fixed, intense, unblinking. His ears twitched as though he could hear something no one else could. Laura Brooks, Daniel's widow, wiped her tears, her voice shaking. "Please, let him grieve. He just misses Daniel." But Rex wasn't grieving. His tail was stiff, his muscles tense, a soldier ready to act. Then suddenly, he began scratching at the coffin, barking louder this time, his claws scraping the wood like urgency itself. "Get him under control," an officer shouted. Yet Captain Harris didn't move. Something in Rex's behavior didn't feel random. He'd seen this before, when Rex detected life in rubble after a bombing. A sound, a scent, something invisible to human senses. "Wait," Harris muttered, his pulse quickening. He leaned closer to the casket. For a moment, he thought he heard it, the faintest thump, like a heartbeat beneath the wood. He froze. The priest stopped mid-prayer. The crowd fell silent. "Get medical personnel here, now," Harris ordered, voice breaking the tension. Everyone stared in disbelief. The dog wasn't mourning the dead. He was trying to save the living. The rain poured harder as chaos broke out around the gravesite. Officers scrambled, unsure whether to act or stand down. Captain Harris's command echoed through the confusion. "Get the paramedics. Open that coffin." The funeral attendants hesitated. Open a coffin during a ceremony? It was unthinkable, disrespectful even. But one look at Rex, barking and clawing frantically, convinced them. Something was happening that none of them could explain. On my count, Harris ordered. 1, 2, 3. The lid creaked open. Gasps filled the air. Inside, Officer Daniel Brooks lay pale, but not lifeless. His chest moved. Faintly, almost invisible, but it moved. A weak pulse flickered at his throat. "Oh my God," whispered Laura, collapsing to her knees. "He's alive. He's alive." Rex let out a long, trembling whimper and pressed his nose to Daniel's hand, licking the dirt and blood away. Daniel's fingers twitched weakly in response. "Get him on a stretcher now," shouted the medic. They worked frantically, pumping oxygen, checking vitals. Captain Harris's voice broke as he turned to the stunned crowd. "If it weren't for that dog, we'd be burying a man still breathing." The officers lowered their heads. Overcome with disbelief, as Daniel was rushed to the ambulance. Rex barked once, not in warning this time, but in triumph. His instincts had saved his master again. Hours later, at the hospital, Daniel Brooks lay hooked to machines, fighting for every breath. Doctors called it a miracle. His body had been paralyzed by a rare toxin that slowed his pulse to near death. Without Rex's persistence, he would have been buried alive. But as the shock settled, Captain Harris began to dig deeper. The mission that had nearly killed Daniel, a warehouse raid gone wrong, suddenly didn't look like an accident. Evidence from Daniel's recovered body camera showed something chilling. A gun fired not by the suspects, but by another officer. A betrayal. It turned out Daniel had discovered internal corruption. Officers involved in smuggling weapons through police evidence storage. Before he could expose them, someone silenced him. Rex, during the explosion aftermath, had stayed by his side, refusing to leave. His barking that day wasn't just instinct, it was memory. Captain Harris clenched his fists. "We're going to finish what he started." The truth was out, and Rex had not only saved his partner, he'd uncovered a conspiracy buried deeper than a grave. Weeks later, sunlight poured through the hospital window as Daniel Brooks slowly opened his eyes. The first thing he saw wasn't the machines or the doctors. It was Rex, sitting patiently at his bedside, tail thumping softly against the floor. Daniel's voice was weak, but filled with emotion. "You saved me again, partner." Tears filled Laura's eyes as she whispered. "He never stopped barking. He knew you were alive." News of Rex's heroism spread across the country. The department honored him with a Medal of Bravery, but Daniel said it best: medals fade. Loyalty doesn't. Rex barked once, proud, steadfast, and home again.